Seniority rules. It was the summer season on the island of Sodor, and all the engines were working hard. But the heat was making it difficult for some of them. Knapford Station was especially crowded, and sometimes the engines had to sit outside while the passengers climbed aboard the trains. "I don't know if I can take much more of this," complained Henry one day. "I do like the summer, but this is a bit too much." "Pah!" snorted Gordon. "You're just saying that because you don't get as important jobs as me. What with me being the fastest and all." "You may be the fastest," said Emily firmly, "but no matter what, Gordon, we all get very important jobs." "She's right, you know," said Thomas with a cheeky grin. "Oh, Thomas, you'll never understand the true meaning of the word," said Gordon pompously, "because you'll never be as important as I am." "You're right. I'll always be one step ahead," Thomas teased, and he puffed out of the station. "Always one step ahead?" murmured Gordon. "We'll see about that." And he flew out of the station. Thomas saw Gordon coming and slammed on his brakes. "Careful, Gordon!" he cried. "I was here first." "I don't care. I have seniority." Thomas puffed away, fuming. Henry and Emily just looked at each other, feeling very confused. Gordon arrived at Brendam Docks, where Cranky was busy unloading a shipment. "Ahoy, matey!" called Salty. "Where's Thomas? He usually shows up first." "Thomas slept in this morning and is running late," replied Gordon. "Are you sure?" asked Cranky. "Thomas isn't one to sleep in." Then there was trouble. As Gordon had gone first, Thomas was sent onto the wrong line. He rounded the bend and bumped straight into Salty. Cranky jumped and dropped a crate on Thomas. "Shiver me axles!" cried Salty, and he bumped into Arthur. "Sorry, I didn't have time to stop," said Thomas. "I thought you were supposed to come from the other line, me hearty," said Salty. "I was supposed to," said Thomas crossly. "Wasn't I, Gordon?" Gordon didn't say anything, but then the Fat Controller arrived, and before he could say anything, Gordon blurted out, "Thomas was late this morning, sir. I had to go on or the express would have been late." "Is that so?" said the Fat Controller. "Well, Thomas, you are now to shunt in the yard and Arthur will take your train." And he drove out of the docks. "What did I tell you? Seniority rules!" boasted Gordon as he pulled out of the docks. Thomas was furious, but he knew what it meant to be really useful, so he went back to the yard. Later, Thomas was shunting trucks at Knapford when Arthur arrived. "Don't worry, Thomas," said Arthur kindly. "I know the accident wasn't your fault. I saw everything that really happened." "It's this whole seniority thing," said Thomas. "Gordon thinks just because he's bigger than me that he can order me about." "You don't have to worry, Thomas," said Arthur. "The Fat Controller will find out soon enough." "Thank you, Arthur," said Thomas. "I really appreciate it." And Thomas went back to work as Arthur left the station. Meanwhile, Gordon was hurrying up Gordon's Hill. But the coaches were very heavy, and he felt the couplings tighten. "Gordon!" called the driver. "Be careful!" "I'm trying," replied Gordon, straining a little bit. Suddenly there was a loud crack, and Gordon found it easier. "I've done it! I've done it!" he cried. Then he realized that his brakes were broken. "Help! I can't stop!" he cried. "I think we'd better jump," said the driver to the fireman, and they did. Gordon's crew landed in a field next to a signal box. They ran to let the signalman know about Gordon, and the signalman set the points to Knapford. Meanwhile, Thomas was shunting some trucks back at Knapford when he saw Gordon racing into the yard. "Thomas! I can't stop! Help!" Thomas quickly bit the trucks onto the cross-track. Gordon shut his eyes, and there was a loud crash. When Gordon opened his eyes, he saw that he was on his side, and his coaches were off the tracks. Edward soon arrived with the breakdown train and the Fat Controller. "Is everyone all right?" asked the Fat Controller. "Yes, but we refuse to take the express if this engine is pulling it," complained the passengers. "Send for a bus." "One will be here very shortly," said the Fat Controller, and he turned to Gordon. "Gordon, I am very disappointed with this accident, and I am forbidding you from pulling the express for a whole month." "But sir," cried Gordon, "I am the only engine fit for the job." "Henry can do it just fine, Gordon," said the Fat Controller, and he walked away to his office. Gordon sighed. "Don't worry, Gordon," said Edward kindly. "I'll have you back on the rails in no time." At last, Bertie arrived to take the passengers home. Edward pulled the empty coaches away, and Thomas pulled Gordon to the works. That night at the sheds, the Fat Controller came to see the engines. "After today's incident," he said, "I have decided that Henry and Emily shall take over express duties until Gordon has returned from the works and finished his punishment." "Yes, sir," said Emily and Henry together. The Fat Controller was about to leave when Emily spoke up. "Sir, Gordon caused the accident at the docks this morning," she said. "Henry and I saw him pull out in front of Thomas this morning at Knapford." "Why didn't you tell me this, Thomas?" asked the Fat Controller. "Because of Gordon," said Thomas. "He told me he had seniority over me, and I was afraid you wouldn't believe me." "Thomas, I will always believe my engines," said the Fat Controller kindly, "as long as you always tell the truth, and not hide it like some of us," he said, motioning to Gordon. And the Fat Controller drove away. Gordon didn't say anything. He just glared at Emily. Emily backed slowly into her shed, leaving everyone unusually quiet.